Yeah, so my question has to do with, in general, I mean, not just because, we have this coronavirus going around, just taking care of one's health in terms of practice and, maybe as a foundation for one's practice, just taking care of one's well-being. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
In terms of what?
Well, I guess...
That's understood. If you're talking about spiritual practice, then that's different from just taking care of yourself, because everybody's out there taking care of themselves. Right? They're all doing what they call taking care of themselves. Right? Everybody's doing that well, they like to think. Right? And that usually means self-indulging something. Right? But spiritual practice is more holistic, total, body, mind, and spirit focus. And that means being attentive to what we would call neurotic patterns, disturbing patterns, emotionally, psychically, dreamily, mentally, so on. And what it is that's obstructing your peace, or what your perception is of that. And the idea is not just to look at that or find it, but the idea is to look at it, to remove it. That means to somehow or other go to a deeper level once you recognize what it is. And if you see there's neurosis there, that means you're not at the deeper level yet. So you're at the noise level. You want to get to the silence level. And the first step towards silence is just stopping. Being at rest. Letting go of your self-karma, self-interest, self-meditation, self-neurosis, self-defeating sort of programming. Like that. Just stop. It's kind of like stopping a car which is moving at 100 miles an hour, stopping on a dime, for most people. There's too much momentum in terms of the karmic flow, and so they have a ways to go before they can actually be here now. Comment.
Would you say some people are more well-equipped just because of their karma or their bloodline? They're more well-equipped to make that stop, or
some need it.
Fall into it?
Some just need it. They need to stop. And so some move quickly to arrive at this peace. They're in the world but not feeling of it to the degree where they're not sensing peace. They're in the world sensing peace. So given an opportunity, some people say, yeah, I think I need to do that. I think I need to read that. I think I need to sit down and just stop. Others, 100 miles an hour. So, those who don't need it, refuse it. Flat out. Boom. No, I don't want to have anything to do with slowing down, or calming myself, or clearing myself, or working on myself. None of the sort. And they're doing what they feel they have to do for the moment. So they're not wrong. The time hasn't come yet. Under the right circumstances, when the time shows up, you're ready.
So then, would one's suffering be important in that process? If somebody suffers and maybe feels it a bit more, on a deeper level, or they're just looking for a way to be at peace, more at peace. Would you say it has to do with one suffering enough to be able to make a change?
Some people don't suffer enough. Some people cling to suffering and feel that's their blanket of possibilities. That's it. That they do suffer. They are suffering, and so what? And there are those who need to take that step. Maybe a step that includes years of suffering. And then maybe, it's possible, it slows down, it wears out. Something happens, and it disappears. And they're ready. That means suffering can be given and assumed, it can be taken and disappear. in the proposition for a person, do you want to stop suffering? You're suffering, your relationship, do you want to stop? You want to give that up? People say, no, I don't want to give that up. So they're hopeful that they can make it right. You can't make right something that's not supposed to be right in your idea of right. See? Because of difference, there's a law about difference between people that enables the individual to survive. And sometimes the relationship is able to use that difference as a form of harmony. Not quite oneness, but workability. And that is good for them. And the relationship can go on as long as they can tolerate their differences, or the differences within their own minds, or their own hearts, schisms, duality, self-concepts, and so on. Imagery, let us say. That's a big problem, what the self-imaging is. So when we're talking about monastic life, and you see the imagery like calmness, sitting down, monks in robes, as renunciates away from the ordinary sort of street experience, but that's still going on inside, by the way. So they're in a different environment. But the idea is to be in an environment for their purposes that enables them to recreate themselves as less neuroses and more peace, more calmness, more healing, and so on and so forth. Sometimes the opposite works. I remember living in New York City, and I was doing meditation practices there, right? Like with all the horns going on in trucks and buses and cars and people screaming, and I found peace there. Right? The peace was already there, and I realized that was peace, because that was where I was, and I had to be at peace with that. So that's possible. Bring the peace up to meet the demands of your karma. And that's by changing the location of your brain to be at peace. So instead of in the city, in the midst of noise, which is true physically, but not true absolutely. You can be elsewhere in your consciousness. As you get closer to stillness, and we can call them deeper states, longer brain waves, perhaps.
Yeah, so better for one to find peace within themselves as opposed to looking for it in an outside form, or to show up as something. Would you say that?
You can say that. You said it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Here now. Where's the peace in the moment? Say, who can abide peacefully in this moment in their body and with their mind, and the karma that the mind is a matrix for, or the heart is also a matrix for karma. See, the brain is also a matrix for karma. See, who can do that? Some people can do it. We're talking about people who find no peace at all, who need to have the influence of peaceful beings in order for them to step up to that level as part of their next step. So there's the next step for them.